In your life, unless there's a problem that you just can't seem to get off your mind, you're not going to make it, right? And it's not because you're lazy, it's not because you're unlucky, but it's because there's nothing that's pulling you forwards. And I think that all successful people, they're propped up by a conviction and they're tortured by a problem. Unless you have both of those two things, you'll fall short every single time. And that part is just not talked about enough. So in this world, I believe that you get what you deserve, right? And I know that sounds serious, but it's nothing more, it's nothing less. That's just karma. And some people like to refer to this as manifestation. And I used to really be into that in the self help world and everything else, but I don't really buy it anymore. To me, manifestation is just effort, karma, and consistency lining up over time all together. And you don't get those things because you just want them. You get those things because you try, you put in effort, you participate at the highest level, you get what you deserve, and you get an outcome perceived on the effort you're willing to give. And so, how do I get all this stuff? Well, I'm 24 today, but when I was 20, I graduated high school and I had a contract with the Air Force signed, and I thought I was going in. A year later, I was playing football at a collegiate university on a full scholarship, and I never really played football before that in my whole life. A year after that, I find myself starting to enroll in a university to eventually graduate with a degree in finance and to learn trading and crypto and all this stuff, right? And that was so bizarre to me at the time. But in pursuit of that degree, I actually started a fractionalized real estate company, and I got $8 million of property secured within the first month of operation. Simultaneously, I was helping lead a private equity trading desk, and this was remotely while I was in school. None of these things make sense on paper, but it's because I tried. I actually tried. I would go through the motions, and you'd show up every single day. And I think part of beating resistance is just showing up every single day. And if you can do that, maybe that's part of the magic. So I want to bring up survivorship bias. A lot of people like to chat about survivorship bias, and they're right. They just miss the point of it, though. So survivorship bias, what it means is, the only people that you're hearing from at the end of the day are those who truly made it. They said they were going to do something, they did the actions, they failed, they tried again, and they eventually succeeded. And those are the people that are left at the end of the day to tell the story. Um, what I found was interesting was like, how many successful people did they actually wake up at 5 a.m. all together and hit the gym and come home and take cold showers and eat healthily and write down the affirmations and, look at themselves in the mirror every day and construct their personal brand. And I don't buy it. When I look at the people who have made it in the world, I note that there's one common denominator. They're all tortured by a problem, propped up by a conviction. So I just want to bring up two examples of this. Uh, a lot of people like to clown Drake, but his first mixtape, Room for Improvement, 2006, that's when it came out. He was making about $100 per paid show. But you fast forward to today, he won Artist of the Decade. He has the highest hip hop tour in history, $320 million of revenue in 2023. And what's funny to me is he said he was going to do all those things on old Canadian talk shows. You can go see old interviews. He's like chatting it up with them, and he really wants them to like be a part of his journey. And he's like, no, I'm going to do this. And so why is it that people like him, make it, and there's some people that do all those motions, but they either quit or they fail for some reason or something gets in the way, and then they don't do it anymore, and like, what is that? Well, I think that some people are, they call it being born with the eyes to see, right? And I'm not saying that other people are blind, but I just don't think that they want it the same way. One of my favorite movies ever is it's Troy, and in that Brad Pitt, he plays Achilles, and he says, I just want what all men want. I just wanted it more though, and that was the thing that really stuck out to me. I just want it more. So I think that this whole concept, it's not that it's easy, it's a simple thing though. Really fast, Elon Musk, he was convicted that the world sucks ass at adopting new technology and innovation, and he was convicted that he could bring humanity to Mars. And I'm not trying to glaze him, but all I'm saying is like, look at today. He raised PayPal, he knew he needed money to get there. Now he's the lead conductor of Tesla and SpaceX. He also owns Twitter, one of the world's largest social media platforms. I wonder how convicted he was. But to return to myself, none of the manifestation things ever really made sense to me, right? It all started for me when my best friend in high school, he gave me Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. It's about in 2018. When I read it, I kind of thought it was a joke. I was like, dude, really think and grow rich, right? But he told me, like, he looked at me and he said, Dylan, I'm afraid if I give this to you, you're not going to join the Air Force. And I was like, dude, that's a load of shit, man. Bring it on. I thought I was just going to leave it on my bookshelf, but I stayed up till 3 in the morning that night reading it. And I decided that I wasn't going to go to sleep again until I finished it. And the interesting thing about that book is it didn't really like talk about anything. He said to write things down on index cards, to look at yourself in the mirror every morning and to say what was on the index card, aloud. And that was it, just affirmations and knowing people, remembering their first name, like How to Win Friends and Influence People was an outstanding book as well. But, was that really it? Remembering somebody's first name. Well, something kind of clicked to me as I, look back at all that stuff in retrospection. It's just that I wasn't doing all the things that I said I wanted to do. I was only talking about them and not actually doing them. So, the turning point, where did all this stuff actually change? I didn't have money and I didn't have connections. I definitely didn't have a silver spoon growing up, and I didn't have a safety net of any kind. So I had to figure something out, right? Graduating high school, I just didn't think it would work out to go college. I couldn't fund it myself, so I was like, let's try the football thing. I did the uncomfortable thing. I made the training videos. I sent coaches like athletic resumes, and I just really embarrassed myself. And I said the damn index cards. I said them to myself in the mirror, and I kept doing that, and I kept doing it, and I would visualize, how it would feel to wake up one morning and to see an email in my inbox, and it would say, "Here's your scholarship." You know, akin to that, when I started trading, I would wait to see in my inbox like, "Here's your first payout check." You can finally go help your family out. You can finally start to retire your mother. Like, that's why I got into all this stuff. And at what point did I actually see the return? Well, one day I look at my email, and just how I thought that it would, there was an email in there from a coach, and it said, "You know what? We like you. We're going to take a chance on you. Here's a full scholarship." And it's so odd to me that it kind of happens just because, you try. And that was the moment that I truly understood. You get what you deserve and nothing more and nothing less. You get what you deserve in this world. And it's a choice framework, right? Because trading, for example, it's either the hardest damn thing in the world if you let it be, or it's the simplest thing to approach. You approach it robotically and you go about it that way. Right? Like being introverted or being extroverted, that's a choice. Liking seafood or being the best in your industry, or sitting in your parents' basement till you're 35 years old. Those are all choices. And I think the best part about being an adult is that you get to pick and choose the things that you take seriously, and you get to pick and choose the things that you don't take seriously. It's all up to you. It's on your plate. So when you're doing it right, I really do believe that this is true. When you're doing it right, you're waking up to a new tax bracket of income. You're waking up to new views outside of your window. You're waking up to a new car, and that's really amazing. That is out there if you try. Because I know a lot of people like to bash Andrew Tate as well, but you can hear him saying how easy it is to surpass those around you. And maybe that's not the most humble way to go about it. It might be a little bit egotistical, but when you're really reading the signs out there in the world, the common denominator is being tortured by a problem, propped up by a conviction. So in this life, you can meet yourself 1,000 times. You can do anything. You could be anybody. I think I proved that to myself, and hopefully, you guys can prove it to yourselves as well. Because I don't think it's ever wise to take advice from somebody less successful than you are. So, people say you got to outrun the bear. I don't think you have to outrun the bear. I don't think you have to outrun the slowest person than the bear. I think you have to turn around and face the bear. It's a new perspective on survival of the fittest. It's on you to turn around and fight the bear. And people will say, "Oh, well, what if you're not strong enough?" It's like, dude, that's the point of life, is you have to level up through the game. And Tentacion said this once too: is life is the game. You get to be anyone you choose to be. And that's the fun about the game. And I love that. I think the biggest lie is that it's not that simple. That's the biggest lie they'll ever tell you. You just do the thing that people say that you can't do, and it's done, and you can't do it. And it always seems impossible too for the moonshots, like me, and for you probably watching this video. It seems impossible, but then it happens, and it's done, and nobody gets to say anything. And now it's on your professional experience. You put on your resume, all that fun stuff. But you, you know, uh, yeah, it is that simple. I'm not saying it's easy. It's really hard still, but it is that simple. So if any of this resonated, you're not alone. Too many people today are doom scrolling past their purpose. And if you feel that a problem just won't leave you alone and you happen to be tortured by that conviction that you could solve that problem, my name is Dylan, and I'll see you in the next one.